Hi everybody, my name is Rachel and I am one of the youth service librarians here at the Grandview Heights Public Library, and I have some great book recommendations to share with you today for grades 4 through 12. So we're going to get started with about probably grades 4 through 7th, 8th. And the first book I want to talk about is The Silver Arrow by Grossman. And so The Silver Arrow is about Kate, and Kate is just over her boring, ordinary life. She doesn't understand why life can't be the way it is in books, with mystery and magic and adventure. So with her 11th birthday coming up, Kate decides she's going to take matters into her own hands, and she writes a letter to her estranged but extremely rich uncle, Uncle Herbert, who she has never met, asking him to send her a birthday present. So Uncle Herbert delivers because on the morning of her birthday, Kate goes outside to find a train in her backyard. Yes, a real-life, full-size train engine. So her parents are pretty much beside themselves, and after the initial surprise, Kate is kind of disappointed because, what's she going to do with the train? Just sit in it? But the Silver Arrow is no ordinary train, and Kate and her younger brother Tom soon find themselves on an adventure around the world, delivering endangered and, of course, talking animals to safe habitats. So this book is a great one for fans of Roald Dahl and C.S. Lewis. And if you just are looking for kind of a straightforward fantasy adventure that doesn't have like the fate of the entire world hanging on it. What I also love about this book is that it proves that receiving a letter to Hogwarts isn't the only thing interesting that can happen to you on your 11th birthday. So that's The Silver Arrow by Grossman. Next, I want to talk about a graphic novel called Witch Boy by Molly Ostertag. And this graphic novel is about Aster, who is 13 years old, and he is not what you would consider normal. After all, his entire family has magical powers. But Aster is actually not normal even by the standards of his own family. So since anyone can remember, all of the boys in his family have become shapeshifters and all of the girls are witches. Aster, however, has not shapeshifted yet, and he is increasingly find himself drawn to witchcraft, even though it is forbidden for boys. So with the help of his new and non-magical friend Charlie, Aster secretly begins to explore witchcraft, practicing it on his own, even though being found out could mean exile from his entire family. So despite those pretty heavy themes of finding yourself and defying societal norms and hoping others can accept you for who you are, the book still manages to be light and accessible for middle grade readers. And although Aster's situation could easily be perceived as a metaphor for, sexuality, gender identity, or other things, readers who don't necessarily identify with Aster will still tear through this one just for the magic and adventure alone. So it's a fun read that can be interpreted differently by all. Okie dokie. Now I've got a nonfiction for you, which is Harry Potter, A Journey Through a History of Magic by the British Library. So if you, like me, are a huge Harry Potter fan, and if you, like me, did not get a chance to go to England to see the Harry Potter exhibit that the British Library was putting on several years ago, never fear, they have created this book all about the exhibit and made it accessible to all of us stuck here in Ohio. So there's enough Jim Kay illustrations in here and J.K. Rowling manuscript pages to satisfy even the most diehard Potterheads, but it also includes a lot of interesting information about the real-life history of witchcraft, about the magical creatures that we see in the books, and the subjects that Harry learns about, like divination and astrology and herbology. And although J.K. Rowling, astronomy, not astrology, and although J.K. Rowling did create the story and characters in Harry Potter, in order to create this world, she drew on a really incredibly rich history and mythology that spans back hundreds and hundreds of years. So it's interesting for the super fans and those who are just coming to the series or just have an interest in magic in general. So that's Harry Potter, A Journey Through History of Magic by the British Library. Now, I always like to include a creepy read for middle graders, so I have to mention Mary Downing Hahn. So over the years, Mary Downing Hahn has kind of made a name for herself with these middle grade books that are creepy, but not too creepy for kids who like the supernatural, just maybe a hint of scary. So The Girl in the Locked Room, the one I'm going to talk about today, is about Jules, whose father has been hired to restore this old mansion that's sat empty for years and years. And Jules keeps getting a glimpse of this little girl through the window of the locked room on the 3rd floor, a little girl who has never left the locked room. And as Jules digs deeper into the history of the house and of its inhabitants, she thinks she might know the little girl is, but the question is, can she help this little girl escape the room that she has been locked in for so long? So The Girl in the Locked Room, a little bit of a creepy cover, but not really too scary. Okay, now we're going to switch gears and talk about some teen reads that are more appropriate for probably grades 7 or 8 through 12. The first one that I want to talk to you about is called Be Not Far From Me by Mindy Mcginnis. And so you can find almost any type of books in the teen section. You can find love stories and mysteries and science fiction and fantasy, dystopia. I mean, you name it. But one genre that we don't see as much of in teen fiction is just your survival stories. So, just the story of like one person pitted against the elements. But that is what author Mindy Mcginnis, who, by the way, is an Ohio author, has done in Be Not Far From Me. So this is the story of Ashley, and Ashley has always been an outdoor girl. She has grown up poor in the Smoky Mountains, and the woods have just been, her playground, her retreat, and her second home. She knows how dangerous they can be, and she knows how to survive in them, given that she has the right equipment to do so. But she never realized how much her knowledge would be put to the test until she is on a camping trip with friends, things go wrong, and she ends up alone and injured in the Smoky Mountains with no food, no water, no way of calling for help, and an injured foot that has become infected. So she has to fight to survive, and as the days pass and no one finds her, she knows that the likelihood of rescue is small. So what does she have to do? She has to rescue herself. So this is a fast read. It's a nail-biting read about the lengths that human beings will go to in order to survive. And it was just really exciting. Okay, second, I want to talk about the book We Are Not Free by Tracy right here. And so when we think about World War II, we probably think about Hitler and the Nazis and the Holocaust. We might think about Pearl Harbor and the attack, and how in the aftermath of that attack, the United States declared war on Japan and Germany. But something that we probably don't think about is what that meant for Japanese Americans who were living in the United States at that time. So anti-Japanese sentiment was really, really high. And Japanese people were harassed and attacked for no reason other than the fact that they were Japanese, even though most of them had never even lived in Japan. A lot of them were the children of immigrants who had come over and were just, Americans. So that's bad enough, but that was far from the end because the United States government actually required Japanese Americans to leave their homes, leave their businesses, leave all of their possessions, and move to prison camps. Although they didn't call them prison camps at the time, that's what they were. So just take a minute and try to imagine that of our own government, whose purpose is to protect its citizens, actually imprisoning a portion of our population just based on their race alone. Nothing else. Well, it wasn't actually that long ago. And this work of historical fiction by Tracy follows a really tight-knit group of Japanese American teenagers as they are torn from their lives and come of age in these prison camps. If you read this, you're going to become very emotionally invested in these characters and the ways that they manage to make their lives worth living, even with all of the injustice that they are facing. So I mean, it's an amazing book, and it's also a great one if you're looking to expand your hashtag own voices reading. We are not free. Okay, now something a little lighter and more fun. I'm going to talk about the graphic novel Harley Quinn Breaking Glass by Mariko Tamaki. And so the character of Harley Quinn has gotten a lot of attention in the past few years since her role in DC's Suicide Squad and then her standalone movie Birds of Prey. She's just fun to watch. She's unorthodox, she's unpredictable, and now you can read about her in this teen-friendly graphic novel. So in Breaking Glass, Harley Quinn is a teenager who has been sent to live with her grandmother while her mother works on a cruise ship, but little do they know, her grandmother has actually passed away. So she arrives to Gotham City to find that no one is waiting for her. So she's taken under the wing of the building's landlord, Mama, and she kind of sporadically attends school while she's exploring Gotham City and getting involved with the future Poison Ivy and future Joker in this battle against neighborhood gentrification. So this is a fun graphic novel for people just coming to the character of Harley Quinn, and because of its intended audience, it doesn't have like the violence and language and other mature content that you often will see in graphic novels. So that is Harley Quinn Breaking Glass. And I've got one more to talk to you about today, and this is a nonfiction title called Stop, Breathe, Chill: Meditations for a Less Stressful, More Awesome Life by Beth Stevner. So the pandemic has affected us all, and particularly the teenagers in our lives. They are experiencing stress and anxiety at never before seen levels, and they need to learn healthy ways to cope. So Stop, Breathe, Chill is a book of meditations and mantras aimed specifically at teenagers for stressors that they're going through, including like school, friend trouble, parent trouble. So each page has like a short explanatory paragraph, like when parents just don't understand, and then a mantra that you can repeat. So let me read you one. So this is the mantra for when parents just don't understand. My parents may not understand everything I like, but they love me, and life is more important than just appearances. Okay, so repeating a mantra often feels really silly at first, but if you can get over that hurdle of the initial silly feelings, it usually actually starts working pretty quickly, and that feeling of silliness goes away. So the more tools that we can give our teens and kids on coping with the difficulties of life at a young age, the better, right? So this book is short, it's simple, but it's accessible, and it's a good starting point for teens and a jumping off point for them to continue mindfulness practices in the future. Okie dokie. Well, thanks for joining me today. I guess I will see you guys this summer when we do some quick one-off book talks, which will also be posted to our Facebook page. Otherwise, thanks a lot for listening and have a great week.